Hello, my name is Subham Pridarshi, and my program name was Full Stack Web Development course. So today this video is regarding to our capstone project of Module 4 backend, and my backend Module 4 project was Tool Connect backend. So let's go to the project, and I will explain all the whole the project in this manner. But first, my Almabetter website. This was my Almabetter website, and here all the description where I am used to explain the project in this manner. Oh, this was loading. So in this manner, I know there are so many questions and time requirements for this, like introduction in 2 minutes and API validation, check all these things. So I will explain. Oops, this site was also very bad. So first, what type of backend system you built? This was the question. So I have built a RESTful backend system for a tool management APIs application called Tool Connect. The backend provide APIs for the users and authentication and tool management. So let's track the project, and here is the data evaluation. So in this manner. Okay. So what problem I solve? The main purpose of this backend is to manage users and tool information through APIs. It handles user registration, login, authentication, tool create, updation, and fetching deletion. And another question was who consume the backend? So the backend is primarily used and consumed by the React frontend. It can also be consumed by the API testing tools such as Postman. Here the Postman I also created for, and first we go to my GitHub repository because in, without of this we can't fetch, upload, deploy our data to the servers, and we cannot changes the data every time. So second is the problem understanding. So first you can see that my tool connect GitHub, and this was my readme and project structure flow, and this was an individual project only made by me. So I was backend is required because the front end always cannot alone securely store and process application data. So in tool connect, user information and tool information need to be stored persistently in a database. The backend act as a middle layer between the front end and the database. And screen flow for the front end is, as we know, this was my site. As we know, front end for API request, Express backend controller, MongoDB response, and front end. This was in this the VS Code. We have backend also files and front end files also. The backend handles multiple responsibility. First is data storage where the users tool are stored in MongoDB. Second is the storage where users and tools are receive HTTP requests from the front end and Postman. Third is business logic, which is implemented inside the controller. For example, during logging, backend verifies the user password before generating JWT tokens. Why friendly is not enough? Because the fronted only application would not be suitable because sensitive operations such as the password verifications, data accesses, and authentications would not be performed directly in the browser. So the backend provides a controller and secure layer between the client and the databases. So third is backend architecture. Backend architecture we start DB.js control auth tool controller node front. Well, this is front end and this is for the backend. All the structure, all the files are given here, and we see on also on the GitHub repository. Oh, where is my GitHub repository? Yes, we shown in this also project structure flow. And in this, we will explain some points, some main points of the structure, just like roots. Roots define the APIs, endpoints, and decide which controller function should handle a particular request. And other is controllers. Controller contain the main business logic for example, auth controller handles registration, login, profile, and password reset. Models. Models defines the structure and data store in the MongoDB. I have user and tool models. Middleware. Middleware runs between the request and the controller in this project. Authentication middleware verifies JWT taken because without this we can't protect our roots and passwords. And the next is configured folder contains database connection logicals only. And other is separation of concern. I separated roots, controller, model, and middleware so that each part has a specific responsibilities. So this makes the application easier and to maintain debug and scale. And the last one is server and database connection. The server setup is handled separately for the MongoDB connection. Server JS start application with the database configuration handles the MongoDB connection. And the other problem was the fourth point is API design and core endpoints. So for API design, let's go to the Postman because without Postman we can't fetch the API. So here, my Postman tool connect project, auth register, auth login, all the things. Here the password successfully reset, user registered successfully. All the backend data are collected in the Postman through API validations. The endpoint create a new user. The password has before it's stored in the MongoDB. Login. For login, the endpoint verifies the email and password. If the credentials are valid, it generates and return JWT tokens. For profile, this is a protected endpoint. The JWT token is required to access. And for other the reset password, the endpoint allows users to reset their password by providing their registered email and new password. And other one is the feature is uh, get method, post method, put patch, delete, head, and options. But not all are useful, but only four of them are useful. Just like get. Get APIs are used to retrieve existing tool data. Post is used for create a new tool. The update operation modifies an existing tool. Delete removes a tool from the databases. Example, just like the flow, post request, root controller, validation, business logic, or MongoDB, then go to the JSON response. The REST principle. The APIs follow REST style principle by using HTTP method according to the operation being performed. Post is used for creation, get for fetching, and update and deletion operation modify the DB resources. The next point is the database design and data flow. So let's go for the database design is for MongoDB. The user model store authentication based related information, the password stored and as a bcrypt has rather than plain text because name, email, password, role. This is all in the MongoDB tool. For important field for tour ID, title, description, pickup, meeting point, duration, and all the many features are I made in the project. And the data flow of MongoDB was user React frontend, AUXIS, Express root controller, and Mongoose, MongoDB Atlas controller, JSON. Here the authentication. Hmm. And the other question was why MongoDB? Because I use MongoDB because the application contains document-oriented data such as users and tool. MongoDB provide a flexible document structure. It work well and not just through it. The next point is validation security. For the validation, the application validates import. This is my render website first of all, where the backend and this front end both are rendering, deploying, and storing all the APIs connections. So for rendering, we go to the front end site. Front end side, front end side. Where is my front end? This is my, and not for goes from here. We go from the front end. This link, render link. When we click on the render, we open the my home page of the site of the website to connect for website password reset. For the application validation input field before processing request, for example, registration required name, email, password. Will password was will password reset requires email and new password. First we see here our password, but I used to show okay. I used to show my password for the login credentials. And we for when we forget the password, you can forget from here. You can just confirm your new password and you can log in again. Okay. So the reset password logic also checks that the new password meets the minimum length requirement. Password security for never stored directly as a oh oops, this was calling the invalid password. Okay. So for JWT, like, so this pop-up was very useful. Login successful. Okay. Then I have stored two connect websites and or packages in my connect. Earlier I have made. So after successful login, the backend generates a JWT token protected routes. Verify this token through authentication middleware. And when we click on the edit, all the packages are tool ID, title, description, pickup, drop off, durations. We can change the hour or a day of the tool. And then we update the tool or anyway create the tool. This pop-up was very useful. So this is the site project. And seven, we for the testing, we know Postman screen whenever we keys tool created successfully. Always send this URL, this message in Postman because the data was fetched by the Postman API and this validation go to the MongoDB, then go to the render and then deploy the data. So these all are connected to itself. I tested my backend API using Postman. I tested registration, login, protected routes, and two related operation by sending request and verifying the response. For login, we can use server 1000 port and MongoDB connected. Also, we can say I also use console login and Morgan for the monitoring request and debugging backend issues. So and deployment, as we know, we I am using the render website. You can see that's front end and this is for the back end, all the data stored. So challenges, one challenges was organizing the API endpoints, separating authentication and tool related functionality, database handling. Another challenges was configuring MongoDB Atlas correctly, handling the database connection for the backend, and for the debugging during development, I faced issue related to API URLs, authentications, password handling, and deployment configuration. I solved them by checking backend logs, Postman response, and front end. And for future improvement, there are several improvement I can make in the future. Better authentication, I can implement email verification, refresh token, more secure forget catching, frequently requesting the tool data could be cached by the tool. And scalability for larger traffic, I could introduce better database indexing, pagination, caching, and load. And fifth, the API documentation. So, last overall tool connect is a full stack web tool management application with React frontend, Node.js Express, and MongoDB backend, where the backend authentication tool management, database operation, validation, protected routes, API connection. So this was my project of the tool connects. I hope so. This was good, and thank you, Almabetter, for giving this me opportunity. Okay, then thank you.